Welcome to Food Friends, a podcast inspiring home cooks to try new dishes in the kitchen by sharing trusted recipes, tips, and friendship. Hi, I'm Sonia.
And I'm Carrie. We met in Los Angeles over 15 years ago as personal chefs and haven't stopped talking about food since. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating. Hi, Sonia.
Hi, Carrie.
Sonia, what was your best bite this week?
Carrie, I am so excited to talk to you about my best bite. I would like, Carrie's going to love this recipe. It is a spicy white bean stew, not soup, with broccoli rabe.
Okay.
We have so much to talk about.
On first blush, I'm a little bit like, I need to know more. I love a white bean soup, stew. I don't know about broccoli rabe in my soup.
Oh, it's amazing in this. However, I will say, I think the recipe even says you could use kale or another green. I even had a little bok choy I added. So I think that is less essential because what is essential is just the flavors that are created with so few ingredients. So this is one of those recipes where you're like, okay, spicy white bean stew with broccoli rabe. Like it actually doesn't sound that different or interesting. We've all seen 1,000 brothy beans with chili or some kind of spicy element. So when I first saw it, I was like, this looks good, but it also doesn't seem that different or interesting. And then I read the comments, and I love reading the comments in the New York Times cooking section. One, because sometimes they're dramatic and hilarious.
Sometimes they're so funny. Yes,
they're so funny.
They're so funny.
And sometimes they're actually genuinely helpful. And this was a combination of both. So the recipe calls for canned beans, and the amount of debating about canned beans in the comment section of so many people being like, you must cook from dried. And there's actually a comment about how there were too many comments about this because the recipe is designed to be a simpler bean recipe. It's 40 minutes or less. So it doesn't take a ton of time or effort. It doesn't have that many ingredients.
Yeah,
so
you can't cook dried beans in 40 minutes.
No.
So that's okay. It's okay to use canned beans sometimes.
And I think you can also easily swap homemade beans for canned beans. You can cook them in advance. You could cook them on the same day and use those. No one's going to tell you to do. I've made it twice, and I've made it both with canned and with fresh. So I want to walk you through the recipe, but I have to tell you a few things after because it's going to relate to our recent Substack live call that we had with our community. And it's just also in our ongoing kind of bean conversation that you and I have. But the recipe is sort of described as it's not quite a fridge clean out situation. It's extremely flexible. And it's by Alison Roman. And Alison Roman also recently posted this real defense of how she names her recipes and when she calls something a stew versus a soup versus brothy, how she's doing it all for a reason. It's something you and I also debate.
Yeah, we often debate this because of how you define a recipe helps you understand what you're coming to and set expectations about what will end up on your table. And I think that's important.
Yeah, and you're a person who likes thicker soups. So for you, like the overlap between a soup and a stew, I think is a lot more narrow, which I don't think is right or wrong. I think this is just personal preference. And for me, I think of soup as brothier typically and soup as thicker typically. And usually stews to me have thicker elements to them, and a soup might have a puree or a finely diced vegetable.
Yeah, and I think those definitions for me are also based on what my family will eat. Like my husband will eat something that's more stewy than he will soupy.
Interesting.
So much of our friendship is based on our love of soups and stews and this kind of dish. But my husband for a long time just did not eat any soup at all.
I don't think I knew that. See, context is everything because for you, it actually needs to be stewier, but it could still be a soup.
It's a compromise.
It totally is.
I'm like, I need some soup. And if you need me to call it a stew, then that's what I'll do for the two of us to get to the same table and eat the same meal.
And Alison Roman, even in this recipe, tells you if you want it soupier, you add more stock. If you want it thicker, you cook it a little longer and reduce it. It's super, like I said, simple. You start by just preparing your broccoli rabe or your kale. She explicitly says kale works instead. And then you heat a quarter cup of oil in your soup pot and you add garlic and onion. And you just let that kind of get browned and frizzled at the edges for about 4 or 5 minutes. Then to that, you add harissa paste, which I think is worth it for this recipe. She says you can use tomato paste with a pinch of red pepper flake, and that will work. But I do think because there's such few ingredients, a good harissa paste goes a long way. I really like the New York Shook brand. We're not sponsored by them. I just think it has the most balanced flavor and it's not too spicy, because some harissa paste can be super spicy. So you just have to watch out for that. So then you're stirring it, and she tells you to let it get to a nice brick red color, which I think is a very good detail. And then you add your beans, in this case, canned white beans. She recommends cannellini, butter beans, or Great Northern. You toss that in that mixture, and then you add your broth. And you can use vegetable broth or chicken broth. I made it with both. The other thing that she has you add to this is a little preserved lemon or lemon juice. I think both work really well here. So all you do is you added your broth, you let that simmer for 20 minutes, and then you can add in your preserved lemon or you can add in your lemon juice.
Where does the broccoli rabe go in?
Oh, thank you.
Garlic
I skipped.
onions,
Garlic
right?
and onions, harissa paste, beans, you coat that. Then you add your broth and your stems of your broccoli rabe. You chop those up and you add that at the same time that you add your broth. You let that all simmer for 20 minutes. Then you add the tops of your broccoli rabe or your kale leaves if that's what you're doing. And then you just let that wilt down. It takes like 1 or 2 minutes with your lemon, with your preserved lemon, and then it's ready to go. So you're just stirring it in to wilt the greens. You're not actually cooking it. So the longest period of cooking is just that simmering.
Like 20 minutes of simmering. That probably allows those beans to really start to absorb the flavors of the garlic and the onions and the harissa and the broth itself, and also soften those stems too.
They become very tender. Exactly. I do think the feta is a must at the end. It adds so much to this. I do think any fresh herb you loved is a must. I think it adds a brightness to this. I do think it's good to squeeze a little bit of lemon on it. It reheats beautifully.
That was my next question was, did you eat any leftovers? Were there leftovers and did you eat them?
We ate them for several days. I want to actually, the next time I make this, double the recipe. The last thing I have to say is about beans. So when we had our live monthly gathering for our paid Substack community, which has been just so wonderful.
Agreed.
Colleen, who lives in Canada, was asking about butter beans specifically, because depending on what region you're in and what country you're in, white beans of different shapes can have different names. And she was struggling to find the kind of butter beans that I love so much. So I made a recent discovery when I was making this dish. I went to the store and I bought canned butter beans. Like they said butter beans on the label. It was Eden brand beans, which are...
I've bought those too.
They're usually really good quality. I was like, great, they make a butter bean. How exciting. I found it at a Whole Foods. Then I did go by an Italian store and I saw a bag of Corona beans. I had forgotten that Corona beans are big fat white beans that are also sometimes called butter beans. So this bag came from Italy and I was like, oh yeah, back in the day, this is where I would find those big fat white beans. And so I made versions with both beans. And this was the other revelation. The canned Eden butter beans, the labeled butter beans, were actually lima beans.
Limas. Yeah, they're limas.
But here's the thing. I've bought canned butter beans before that were Italian brand and they were Corona beans. Both cans are called butter beans. So this is all to say.
A white bean will work.
Any white bean will work.
Yes.
However, the Corona bean was so much better in this recipe. The fatter, bigger bean, because lima beans, they're just
a little
different.
Bit starchy. Yeah, I agree.
Thank you. Yeah, so I would say if you've had a hard time finding butter beans, if you live next to any Italian specialty food shop, maybe check out their white bean section.
That's such a good tip. I will say when I was at the Russian market in my neighborhood shopping for frozen sour cherries, which I discovered they have at my Russian market, I bought a jar of a tomato sauced butter bean.
Yes.
That I stuck in my pantry. And one day when I was like, oh, I need a butter bean, I actually just took that out and I rinsed off all the flavoring and that's what I used. So
that's smart.
Yeah, it worked in a pinch. They do have butter beans also at the Russian market.
I do think it's helpful to note that lima can be called a butter bean, but that actually we're talking about different beans. Yeah.
Yes. I also find it very funny to be telling you about the Russian market that you sent me to.
I love that you go there for sour cherries. They have some really good stuff.
They have great stuff.
Well, Carrie, what was your best bite of the week?
Well, Sonia, I kind of have two, but I made a salad from our winter salads episode that we talked about. The recipe is called Brussels sprout salad with pomegranate and pistachios, but what really drew me mostly to it was the description, which was as a winter tabbouleh. I love the idea of taking sprouts and shaving them and like a little bit of grain in my salad. I like bulgur wheat. It adds like a little bit of heft. But what makes this salad so incredible are the colors because it has pomegranate seeds and pistachios. It also has a ton of mint and scallion. So these are all things that I really love. So I was like, I really want to make this salad. I made it. I ate it for lunch that day. I stuck it in mason jars. We went to visit some friends in Texas. We took some of it with us. It travels really well. What makes it kind of also really amazing is it's very lemony. It has both lemon juice and sumac
Oh, yeah.
in the dressing. And it's a really simple dressing. I'm new to sumac. That's something I've learned from you. But it really reminded me of a client that I used to have who just wanted lemon on everything. She just wanted everything to be more lemony. And so even when I was eating it, I was thinking about her and how she would love this recipe.
Where are you getting your sumac? Where do you find it?
Well, my first sumac came from Burlap and Barrel. They sponsored an episode a few months back and they allowed us to pick some of the things that we were interested in. And I thought, well, I've never bought sumac. It's a mix. It's like sumac with black pepper and salt in it. It's delicious and it was really flavorful. Do you have just a straight sumac that you use?
Yeah, I usually pick it up at the Russian market actually, but I see it at Whole Foods and here in Portland at a market called New Seasons. I've seen it there. There's a major spice brand that does sell it, but it is so lemony and it has that vibrant red color. It's a really beautiful spice.
It's tart. And that's
Yeah.
what I think is great. It sort of cuts through the Brussels, which I will say, like Brussels sprouts, when you've shaved them and then stuck them in a jar for a couple of days, they can be real.
Pungent.
They're pretty pungent. And so that lemon tames it. They don't taste that way, but it's like when you open up the jar, oh, wow, that's definitely Brussels sprouts.
This sounds like a great entertaining salad too.
Yeah, I think it's actually billed as a Thanksgiving salad. And this salad is actually vegan as well. I just thought it was really tasty. And then my second best bite of the week is I sort of have to give a shout out to my partner, James. We took this bulgur salad, the winter tabbouleh, on a trip with us. When we came back from our trip, I got really sick. I was sick in bed for a couple of days. And to his credit, my husband is a newer cook. He's really started cooking through our podcast and making recipes. And I've talked about a couple of the recipes he's made in the past. I'm usually there when he's cooking. There's rarely a time that he's just cooking on his own. Because I was sick, he had to make dinner all on his own. And I could smell it upstairs. And so the next morning I came down and I was like, what did you make for dinner last night? And he went into the produce drawer and he found peppers. There was a red pepper and a green pepper I had bought for some recipe. And he had chopped them up, cooked them in avocado oil because we were out of olive oil with a bunch of garlic. And he added a jar of Rayo's, mix that in, and he cooked some pasta. And then he was like, and then I did the carry thing. And I was like, what's the carry thing? And he said, I stopped the pasta cooking right before it was ready and I threw it in with the sauce and I cooked it all together and I added a little bit of Parmesan. And I have to say, once I felt better, I tasted this pasta and I was like, I don't understand. Why is this so good? Like, that's why I made him explain to me what he did. And I'm still kind of baffled by the fact that it was really just a couple of peppers, a little bit of garlic, and a jar of Rayo's. There's just something about those peppers that I feel like we keep coming back to them.
So a little goes a long way.
A little goes a long way. And it just added so much flavor to the jarred sauce. I think after being sick and also just having someone care for you.
I was going to say, things just always, it's like how a salad always tastes better when someone else makes it.
Yeah.
How anything can sometimes taste better when someone else makes it. Even if it's something with a simple jar of store-bought sauce, just that extra touch that he put a little effort and care and added his own little ingredients. You can taste that even not just in terms of the ingredients. So shout out to James. Well done, you.
Yeah, and I'm proud of him.
Yeah.
He's really tried to learn how to cook. Again, usually under my hawk eye in the kitchen where I'm sort of barking orders at him. And he did this all on his own, and it was absolutely delicious. I think in some ways for me, this is like a shout out to the young cooks, the new cooks, whether you're young or old. When you're new at cooking, having a win, I remember those moments when I would have a win, making a really simple dish, just really boosts your confidence in the kitchen.
Well, until next time.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for being our food friend.
If you enjoyed our podcast, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share this episode with friends. We love hearing from you, so follow us on Instagram or drop us a line at foodfriendspodcast.com.
Yes, we'd love to hear from you and your food friends. Happy cooking and eating.